Hello and welcome back to the Vinyl Brotherhood, where we like to kick back, take it easy, and just chat about music, whether it be the latest and greatest new releases or old favorites from years gone by. We are continuing with our Christmas festivities here at the Vinyl Brotherhood, and we're having a great time. And we're going back to 2011 to revisit a Christmas classic, an album that we hold very dearly to our hearts, and we can't wait to discuss it with you. So get comfortable, and we'll start here momentarily. With only a few days left before Christmas, we thought we'd drop in quickly to reminisce over a classic Christmas record with our amazing audience. An album to get us in the Christmas spirit and make our days a little brighter. Christmas comes but once a year after all. Of course, our selection this evening is a very She and Him Christmas, the obvious choice. If you watched our recent 10 classic Christmas albums video, you may remember that this album was on the list. If you didn't watch the video, I would point you in that direction, especially if you need some new tunes recommended to you. But yes, a very She and Him Christmas has become something of a reliable go-to during the season since its release in 2011. It was my introduction to indie pop duo made up of Zooey Deschanel and M. Ward, actually. I purchased this at the store on CD between semesters back in my college years. I was desperate for a new addition to my growing collection of Christmas music, and I chose this record, and the rest is history. But we're not going to allow nostalgia and fuzzy Christmas memories guide us as we review today's selection, at least not too much. Let's take this over to the record player and get started.
The Christmas spirit grows with each new day, and it's so close but seems so far away.
Okay, let's take a look at our album art. Very lovely photograph with plenty of contrast. Zooey and Matt looking off into the distance. I love this vintage color palette, and that typography is excellent. Another nice photograph on the back. And we got plenty of supplemental material to dig into. Here's the actual vinyl record, a nice red and green splatter. Quite lovely. And here's a sleeve it came with, obviously. Patterns on both sides, very large snowflake there. And lastly, I remember this from the CD version that I purchased way back when, but it's a letter, has a nice photograph on the front, and then it reads, "Best wishes for your happiness this holiday season from Matt and Zooey," which obviously isn't handwritten or anything, but it's a nice sentiment. All right, let's go ahead and talk about this record. I made a joke in passing on our 10 Christmas Classics video about how A Very She and Him Christmas is the only album that the band actually cares about. I jest, of course, but there's certainly a grain of truth to that statement. With the exception of this year's Brian Wilson tour, it seems like they only ever show up around Christmas, and there's always a timely new variant of this very LP released annually. It must be a big seller. I think there's actually an Urban Outfitters exclusive edition out this year. In all fairness, it's probably the She and Him album that gets the most play from me, since I make sure to give it a few spins when the season rolls around. That's mainly because I love this album, and in my mind, some of their renditions of our favorite Christmas tunes are the definitive ones, with Christmas Waltz being no exception. This gentle 3/4 time number eases us into the experience with a folksy and minimalist approach. Listen closely while the solo piano is being played, and you can hear that analog warmth humming in the background, along with all sorts of sounds from the studio around them. I really enjoy these sort of imperfections and personal touches, and thankfully, we get plenty of those on A Very She and Him Christmas. There's a modest variety to the instrument choices on this album. Christmas Waltz features a soft acoustic guitar, while Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas and I'll Be Home for Christmas feature M. Ward's unmistakable electric guitar sound, from his Gibson Johnny A most likely. I've always admired his guitar tone, and frankly, his distinctive sound is reason enough to pick up anything he puts his name on. His tone has good body and the perfect amount of reverb for what he's trying to accomplish. It always rests very, very nicely in the mix. Our other member, Zooey Deschanel, who you may know from such movies as The New Guy and The Happening, also gets plenty of time to shine. You're well aware by now that she's got a wonderful singing voice and you'll never mistake it for anyone else's. But now she gets to prove in subtle manner how versatile she can be with her vocal work. Compare her performance on something serious like Nat King Cole's Christmas song to the more playful cover A Sleigh Ride or the country-leaning Blue Christmas. She clearly stands on the shoulders of giants, but never does she come across as not being comfortable with the differing styles and their nuances. Some may find her work a tad too precious or cutesy here and there. It's not an uncommon criticism of She and Him, and that's fair. But I'd argue that there's no better place for that kind of stuff than on a Christmas record. And relevant to that point, it looks like she gets Silver Bells all to herself with just her voice and a ukulele. As per the She and Him house style, it's an awfully cozy recording that doesn't strive for perfection in the slightest, and yet it feels just right. The recording session must have taken all of 10 minutes though. Along with the classic pop standards, we also get a handful of covers of legendary rock artists. We know Zooey and Matt love them some Brian Wilson, so we get not one, but two Beach Boys songs from their 1964 Christmas album, Little Saint Nick and the often overlooked Christmas Day. These two recordings are lovingly crafted and a bit more imaginative than some of the more straightforward interpretations on the record. Some of that probably comes built in, considering that these songs come with gorgeous multi-part harmony stacks that you simply can't afford not to execute on a Beach Boys cover song. But you can still feel that fun energy and love that they put into these two tracks, especially Christmas Day, my personal favorite on the album. Next we've got Christmas Wish. Now, Christmas Wish by NRBQ is kind of a deep cut, but it's not the first time we've gotten an NRBQ cover from She and Him, so maybe we shouldn't be too surprised. M. Ward lends his warm, gravelly voice for lead vocals on this one, helping to break the mold a little bit. And there's this thing that She and Him does on a handful of songs that I've always liked, where they introduce the drums, or at least a snare drum, well into the song for that extra dynamic punch. We start hearing them after the bridge of Christmas Wish, along with some really nice guitar work. And of course, let us not forget the aforementioned Blue Christmas, made famous by the one and only Elvis Presley. Another very fine addition indeed. So what do I think of the album as a whole? Well, She and Him play to their strengths on the first of their Christmas outings and keep the production relatively small, which was probably a good idea. A little bit of sleigh bells here, a vocal harmony there. The classic She and Him sound lends itself extremely well to the Christmas vibe. They even make some non-favorites, such as Jingle Bell Rock and Baby It's Cold Outside, somewhat palatable, no simple task. As far as small-scale comfort food listens with Christmas magic and spades, a very She and Him Christmas is a very good option. I think Christmas Party, the follow-up, lost some of that magic, but I suppose that's another review for another time. And speaking of reviews, I hope the next time we talk about She and Him on the Vinyl Brotherhood, it's in regards to a studio album titled Volume 4, but I'm not especially optimistic of the likelihood of that. Let me say, I do find it increasingly strange that 60% or more of their output is made up of cover songs at this point. Here's hoping that changes soon. But I digress, so let's head back. A very She and Him Christmas is a good album to experience in different ways. It's a pleasant experience for the active listener, but it also serves as the perfect choice for your next get-together. It's an easy listen, and as a fan of a laid-back, easygoing experience, it never gets old. I'm always happy to hear those opening lines of Christmas Waltz. It almost instantly puts me in a good mood, a good Christmassy mood. It's not the most complex or high concept work out there, but it effortlessly accomplishes its purpose, which is to make spirits bright. If I were to score a very She and Him Christmas, I could probably do something like an 8. Great album, deserving a place in your holiday tradition. For further listening, you can check out Christmas Party, which I mentioned a second ago. It didn't make quite as much of a splash, and I personally don't think it's as strong of a work, but there are some good recordings on that one. And most recently, She and Him have made an album of Brian Wilson cover songs. We reviewed that album right here on the channel if you're interested. But of course, we're always wondering what you guys have to say. So if you're watching this, go ahead and hit us up in that comment section. Our audience has been so encouraging and insightful. We really can't thank you enough for taking the time to watch. It's very much appreciated. That's about all the time we have for today, and I believe we won't be seeing you again until the new year. We'll be back sometime in the month of January with plenty of reviews and more. It'll be fun, so I guess we'll be seeing you then. So again, thank you, and we wish you the merriest of Christmases and a Happy New Year.